Consistency in my storyline? Well, Ken left for New York. Someone died, supposedly, and he had to jet. And while he was gone, I felt like I was dying. And shortly thereafter, I ended up leaving him. Moved to Salida, a town just about 25 minutes away. Right before we moved there, the Domestic Violence Alliance told me to put together a timeline of the abuse. And that's when I started going through a bunch of text messages, emails, Facebook Messenger messages, just any chat that I had, searched his name. Oh man, I came up with a lot. To the point at which I was like, did he kill his first fiance? I'd kind of questioned it before, but now with all the evidence and everything I found, his mom died in his care too. Supposedly, she just went in the bedroom to take a nap and died of a broken heart. But the biggest mistake he made when she died was calling 911 because the cops showed up and put up crime scene tape. He said that to myself and in front of my kid twice right before we left. So that was kind of fresh brewing in my mind, that was a weird thing to say. That the only wasn't the biggest, the only mistake he made when his mother died is calling the cops, picking up the phone and calling 911 because the cops showed up and put up crime scene tape. You don't make mistakes when someone dies unless you had something to do with it. Like, I don't get along with my mom, but if my mom and I were in a building or room or whatever, house together, and she was dying or dead, the very first thing I would do would be to call 911. And I wouldn't give a fuck what the neighbors thought. I'd be like, my fucking mom died. But you know how psychopaths and sociopaths can be with their image. And I remembered not too long before we left him, my kiddo had asked for chickens from Tractor Supply. Went and got them for him. After they outgrew the bathtub, I became the chicken lady. And yeah, I got so into it that I started looking stuff up. And one of the things I found was that you have to watch out for stuff in the yard, because they can eat it and die. There are certain things that are poisonous. So I looked at that list, and on it was a chokecherry tree. It was in our front yard in Nethrop. He used to have two of them, but one of them had been cut down. So I mentioned the chokecherry tree. It was like the next day that he booked it for someone that died, an aunt or something, I think. His dad was dead, his mom was dead, his brother was dead. Or no, his brother wasn't dead, his brother was just missing in action. The whole 9 years that I lived with him, I never once witnessed an exchange between the two of them. No phone calls, no emails, no nothing. Nothing. story about his first fiance changed after the first year. About her death. Suddenly, other people that had died too weren't dead. Just her. And she was pregnant. I remember because that was the first time I made him talk about it in front of somebody. We were going to counseling, and I made him talk about it with the therapist, Susan Blumberg. She was also my childhood therapist. After I left, though, I looked up all the symptoms I was having. I used to text Ken from work all the time and say that I was nauseous. And he'd say something weird back, like, maybe you ate too many carbs. And I was like, I'm keto. Just all of a sudden, I started getting nauseous. Christina, she works up at Mount Princeton, housekeeping director. One day she had to let me go home because I was bleeding through, at the very least, a pad an hour. When he left for New York and I felt like I was dying, I was hallucinating really, really bad. And I'm normally like a spiritual person. I have visions and stuff like that. This was intense. I haven't experienced the likes of such I've had some intense experiences too. All of the symptoms that I was experiencing could be found on the side effects of slow cyanide poisoning list. All of them. There was more. I had headaches and a couple other things I can't remember, but I remember when I read the list, I was like, I have too many of these to... It would just be a weird coincidence, I guess. Well, what happened after Salida can be found below this post. I'm not going to get into specifics about people who weren't supportive that could have been, or took me to court when I could have used a break from everything. I won't go into specifics about that. But you'd think when you leave an abusive ex, people would just kind of let you chill for a little bit.